Let's talk briefly about Jeremy Hunt, NHS and cannabis. But first of all, Kevin, very quickly, this pie-in-the-sky number they plucked out of thin air, right?
The Brexit dividend?
It's dependent on so many things happening which are unlikely to happen. Look, you know, you're a guy, the NHS, very important to you.
Yeah.
What did you feel about it yesterday?
I think she's actually kind of ruined it, really. First of all, she's come up with this figure for the NHS, which isn't enough over the period. And then secondly, she said it's going to be funded by a Brexit dividend, which doesn't exist. It's a figment of her imagination. It's a phantom sum.
Does it work politically to those people who voted Brexit because they saw 350 million per week for the NHS on the side of a bus and are frustrated about the fact that it might not happen? Is that where she has scored a win?
That's what she hopes, but she'll be taking them for fools. They know it is not there yet. It might, right? It might be there
Andrew,
in 10, 15 years, but it's not there.
Because I've got to say, they took a pasting yesterday, and quite rightly, because we had Jeremy Hunt on. And I was like, well, what happens if Brexit doesn't work, if we don't get a deal, for example? If we don't get a deal, which is a possibility, there is no way you can deliver this kind of money to the NHS.
And we heard in the House of Lords last night an hereditary peer there, just because his grandfather and grandfather after that was in the House of Lords, saying Brexit is a national disaster. They're still determined to wreck it. But the fact is, the Prime Minister should have just said, when she announced this extra money for the NHS, which I think most people watching this programme will welcome, and we'll raise it through taxation, we'll raise it through this way, and any money we get back from Brexit will go to it too. If she span it that way, it would be much more sensible, rather than trying to say it's all coming from Brexit, because it isn't.
There should have been some caveats in there, because she's not in a position at this stage of the Brexit negotiation to guarantee anything.
There will be money, but she couldn't...
The thing is, it's classic Theresa May. It's almost setting yourself up for an automatic fall.
Yeah.
Why? It's not very good politics to me. Very quickly, on the cannabis thing, Jeremy Hunt yesterday endorsing, I think Sajid Javid, wasn't it, who originally said that we should be able to use this cannabis oil in cases of this young boy.
12-year-old with very serious epilepsy.
Right. Well, clearly it has been of benefit to him and would presumably be to many others. This has to be right, doesn't it?
No, absolutely. And I think the Health Secretary and the Home Secretary accept this. The Prime Minister with a tin ear hasn't got it yet. As Tom Watson, the Labour Deputy Leader, said, 30,000 people are using this illegally anyway. They're not using it because they're drug addicts. They're using it because it saves lives, and it's just nonsense.
Kevin,
I'm completely with it.
Notwithstanding in the mail, you're not allowed to even mention the word drugs without getting people.
If they were talking about legalising cannabis for pleasure, I'd be completely opposed.
Well, is that what Lord Hague's saying? Because on the front of the Telegraph...
He's saying there should be a debate about it.
The war on cannabis itself is lost. This doesn't seem to be just medical use.
It's a big discussion. I think we should have a discussion about it, but for medical use, you see the poor little Billy, of course they need to...
What is interesting is in America, in several states now, cannabis is legal, including California, where I spend a lot of time, and it's been very quickly just accepted into the mainstream life. It's obviously very regulated now, it's very safe, and it's bringing in a fortune for the governments, the local government and the federal government.
Tax on it.
And so, you know, if you wanted... There's a weird thing here, isn't there? Where if you did legalise it in this country in the same way, actually the revenue you might get from it could be enough to fund the NHS for a very long time.
Oh, absolutely.
Wouldn't that be ironic?
Instead of the Brexit bounce.
And you stop crime, because now it's criminally driven. Sometimes the purity is wrong. People get
I think a lot of issues in this country are down to abuse of illegal drugs.
Sure there are. I'm sure. I mean, these gangs crimes in London, especially, a lot of it's about drugs.